So it's good afternoon to those on the East Coast. Good morning to everybody else. My name is Dawood Asib. I serve at the pleasure of the National Guide Committee, and I welcome everyone to today's mental health seminar. I would like to take a point of privilege, if you don't mind, to do a quick prayer for our National Guide Director, Brother Kevin Burnett, who's not here. His mother passed recently, and so he's away. So if we could all just take a moment of silence, and I'll say a quick prayer. Dear God, dear Father God, we ask that you bless everyone that is in this meeting, all those who are coming to the meeting or who wish to be in this meeting but cannot make it. I ask that you bless our leader, our chairman of the National Guide Committee, Brother Kevin Burnett, and his family as they celebrate the homecoming of his mother. And I ask that you bless everyone in this room again, and everyone that is going to present. And we ask that the information that is shared is useful and helpful and taken and benefits everyone that receives it. We ask you all these things, dear God, your Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. So again, I'd like to thank everyone again for coming. Again, my name is Dawood Asib. As we are launching our God Right Mental Health Initiative, and I would like to thank Brother Keys, Brother Booker, and Brother Campbell who have led this initiative. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Brother Keys for his remarks.
All right. So good morning, brothers. Today, we're getting ready to launch our Guide Right to Becoming a Better Brother Mental Health and Wellness Initiative. My name is Brother LaShante Keys. I'm the chairman for the Mental Health and Wellness through Guide Right, the National Guide Right program. The one thing, just a little housekeeping, as always, I know Zoom and things of that nature, you still got to go through it. But if you can, just make sure that you mute yourself until it's time for you to ask a question or need to ask a question. We will be going through that as well. If you can, it's always great to have your cameras on so we can see your faces. If not, we definitely understand. We just want you definitely to get the information. But again, if you can put your cameras on, we would definitely love to have your cameras on. We have a great show for you today. But first, I'm going to give you the purpose of why we did this initiative. And so the purpose of this initiative, obviously, we do know that mental health is a serious issue within the African-American community. But however, mental health disorders are more common than heart disease and cancer combined. For too long, mental health illness has been misdiagnosed and sometimes ignored to our overall health and well-being. Because of this, accessing mental health services is not as simple as making an appointment with your family doctor. The stigma, especially surrounding mental health illness in the African-American community, often prevents people from seeking treatment, and those who do not want help are not sure where to turn. So the National Guide Right program of Kappa is looking to create an innovative approach that will assist in addressing this issue. So today, we're going to talk about we have a couple of guest speakers, and we're going to jump right into it. So first off, you'll hear about utilizing the mental health survey. So some of you already got the survey, but maybe didn't know how to utilize it properly. So Brother Booker will be doing that. Immediately after his presentation, we will go into a question and answer conducted by Brother Asib. Immediately following that, we'll have another presentation of why mental health is important by Brother Campbell. Again, right after his presentation, we'll do a Q&A. After that, we'll talk about the plan for the year and what this mental health and wellness looks like. And then I'll end up closing the program. So first up, then we're going to stop sharing. First up, we have Brother Booker, who will talk about utilizing the mental health survey. And we're just going to give him some time to upload his presentation. But while he does that, if you can, in the chat, put where you're from, what chapter you represent. Let us know who you're representing while he's uploading his presentation.
Good morning and afternoon, everybody. So my name is Dr. Larnie Booker. I'm a general pediatrician in New Jersey. I'm also the Guide Right Director for the New Brunswick Alumni Chapter and Assistant Northeastern Province Guide Right Director. And so I'm just going to go over some brief information with you in terms of, the overall importance of health and wellness. And then for the Guide Right Directors and for the students on the call, just go over a little bit of the survey that we have you guys fill out, why it's important, how it's scored, and then what you're supposed to do with it. So, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. It's what enables people to cope with the stresses of life. Life has, as people say, life be lifing. So there's things that happen to each one of us every day that we kind of have to manage, and they come at you in unpredictable fashion. So how we deal with that is directly what our mental health is. How that allows us to realize our abilities, learn and work well. So for students, how you attend school and participate in activities, and then how we contribute to our overall community. It's just as important as your physical health. So just as everyone goes for an annual checkup each year, it is a reasonable thing that people should go up for a mental health checkup each year. It's not currently how our health system works, but it's something that we're really working hard to change, because if you're not mentally healthy, being physically healthy can be compromised as well. Your mental health is a basic human right. It's critical to your development as a person. But in a scientific sense, people think of mental health, you say it initially and it doesn't have a concrete meaning to you. But in scientific terms, mental health is the regulation and production of functional neurotransmitters in the brain that allow for mental stability and coping abilities. So you have chemicals that function in your brain every day. They move down your neurons, which I can describe as streets. They get to an intersection with a light or a stop sign, and then they have to determine which way to go from there. And so if you don't have the proper amount of the neurotransmitter, or the transmitters don't move as they're supposed to, it is actually what contributes to having mental health disorders. In terms of conditions of mental health that people may be aware of or unaware of: depression, anxiety. ADHD is considered a mental health disorder. Bipolar disorder, adjustment disorder, schizophrenia, eating disorders are mental health conditions, and substance abuse. So whether it be alcohol, whether it be drugs, or some other abusive, substantive abuse, those all categorize and fall under the mental health conditions. Things that will affect your mental health: trauma, stress. So trauma being physical or emotional. So if you're in an environment where there's verbal abuse, if there's physical abuse, if you've been in a car accident, if you've had a loss of a family member, all those things are traumas that will affect your mental health. Stress, the environment you grow in, if it's more chaotic, it can also contribute to your mental health. And then some people have issues with the seasons. So here, in the Northeast, it's cold, it's dark at 4:30 in the afternoon. And so the lack of daylight for some people affects their mental health as well. And then people who suffer from chronic illnesses or physical illnesses, like asthma or diabetes or lupus or arthritis, where they may have some limitations from them, can also affect their mental health. Just some general statistics: in the African American community, we find that depression, episodes of depression are going up from 9 to 10.3% in our youth from 12 to 17. So right in that age where we have Kappa League, and it's up a third in our young adults in 18 to 25. The stigmata, as Brother Keys mentioned earlier, in terms of how we perceive mental health as weakness, has affected our ability to seek help, and has affected our ability to have help provided in the proper context. 90% of people, of African Americans who are over the age of 12 who have a substance use disorder, are not receiving treatment. And so generally, if you are taking a substance, somehow it makes you feel better in some way, shape, or form, and it may be covering up an underlying problem. Marijuana usage has increased in our kids from 12 to 17, and major depressive episodes have also increased in our 12 to 17-year-olds and 18 to 25-year-olds. So this is a problem that is becoming a greater and greater issue within our community. I think in many ways it's just being recognized more often, or we're finally getting to the point where we're saying it's okay to admit that we have an issue. So for our students, you can be the difference. And for our brothers who are running guide programs, you can be the difference between life and death. You don't know what a student is dealing with on a day-to-day basis. You don't know how much their stress level is really impacting their mental health. And something we say or do on a given day might be the difference between them taking their lives or them seeking help. And so some simple ways to look for your mental health or to be an observer and to have an impact is to use your 5 senses. You can use vision, your hearing, taste, or talking, using the use of the mouth, touching, or smell. And so if you just think of it from that standpoint, you can identify some simple ways where we can just use the ability to pay attention as our greatest opportunity to help students who are in need. In terms of vision, for our students, look up from your phones. We spend a lot of time in our day looking at our phones, indulged in our own world or our own space. And all it simply requires is for you to look up and watch the people around you, watch their facial expressions, watch their body language, watch for changes in their behavior. You know, my son used to tell me, he said, look, if you got a kid that comes to school that's normally well dressed, but on a particular day he comes dressed in bummely, it comes dressed in different clothes, or looks, you know, more like a bum. He goes, that kid, get in the fight that day. Because something's gonna happen that day. He dressed down for a reason. He or she dressed down for a reason. But it's simple things like that where you notice somebody has a typical appearance or a typical behavior, and that suddenly it's not the same. So something may be going on. From hearing, listen to when your friends talk. You know, pay attention. Again, if you're looking at your phone or watching a video while they're talking, or you got your AirPod in, you got something playing when people are talking to you, you're not really listening. So you want to pay attention to what they're saying to you, take them seriously, and pay attention to your colleagues and friends if they stop talking. So if you normally have a good relationship and they suddenly stop talking to you, you know, sometimes you'd be like, man, forget them. I'm gonna move on, you know, whatever. No, it's a good opportunity to take a moment and say, hey, man, what's going on? Is anything going on? Anything you want to talk about? I just noticed that you've not been yourself lately. In terms of taste or talking, you know, watch for change in their appetite. So eating disorders, as I mentioned, are a source of mental health disorder. So if they're eating more or eating less, that's a good, you see them gaining a lot of weight or losing a lot of weight, you want to ask what's going on. You know, talk to the people you loved. We do a lot through text messaging. It's a common source of our communication at this point, but you actually using your mouth, verbalizing, you get more from the tone of what somebody says. You don't have to interpret what they say. And so, you know, just having conversations with the people you love are going to be really important. You know, tell people how important they are to you. You never know that day where you tell somebody you love them, or you're like, yo, man, I really value your friendship. I appreciate the things you provide. You know, my life wouldn't be as great without you. You don't know how much of an impact that can have on somebody. And then if you see something or you suspect something, say something to someone. Talk to a parent, talk to a teacher, if you think someone's exhibiting signs that are concerning. Smell. Watch for the smell of alcohol or marijuana. I know marijuana is legal. I know as a doctor, I get people who walk in and smell like weed all the time, and they're there for a regular visit for their kids. But when you just know that the use of substances can be a mechanism by which they are trying to manage their own mental health. Some people are doing it for enjoyment, but a lot of people are doing it because they want to feel a certain way. And again, be nosy. When something doesn't seem right, ask a lot of questions. In terms of touch, it's okay. Put your arm around somebody. You know, give somebody a hug when you see that they're having a tough day. You know, be a shoulder for them to lean on. You know, when you can say like, look, you just aren't yourself. Like, yo, man, I'm here. You know, whatever's going on, just know that I'm available. That you can actually come to me and let me know what's going on, and I won't share it with the world. But I'll be here to just listen if that's what you need, or offer advice if I can. But in terms of touch, be warm with people. Your expression, your facial expression, your words, they all matter. And so if you can give a warmth in situations to people, that's going to matter a great deal. From a screening standpoint, so for the guide directors on the call, one of the things we've asked this year is that we start to do mental health screenings within Kappa League. And we're not asking you to be an expert in mental health. We're not asking you even to make a diagnosis or to provide counsel. What we're asking for you to do is to give the students the ability to perform these screenings that will give us some ideas of whether a student needs more help or not. The top section of this questionnaire, and you can find these online. These are easy to find. The depression screening is called the Patient Health Questionnaire 9, so PHQ 9. It's 9 questions. That's where you get the 9 from. And it's asking students how they felt over the last 2 weeks. There are other screening forms that are very similar that may ask for a larger period of time, but it's asking them to score it in one of 4 categories: not of all, several days, more than half the days, or nearly every day. So in my office, we do this for every student that comes in, every patient that comes in over the age of 12. We do it every year. And so what you're just basically doing is taking these columns and adding them down, you know, as the student checks them off or circles them, and then you're tabulating the score. So for example, a score of 5 to 9 would be considered mild depression. I typically see this scenario a lot where I have a lot of students who have a bunch of ones, or maybe 3 or 4 ones and a couple of twos. I'll usually look to see where those come from. Again, as the guide director, again, if you don't have a background in either mental health or healthcare, you don't have to do anything special other than provide the score. But if I have a student that says, look, I feel tired. Okay, are you getting enough sleep? Is something going on? Are you staying awake on your phone? If they're having trouble falling asleep. So, in my end as a physician, I'll ask more questions to get a sense of the severity of that individual, check mark. But you can score it. And what we do in New Brunswick, we've been doing this for the last 5 years, is that we watch really closely these moderate to moderately severe numbers. So if we get numbers in that range, then we will address those. If we get mild, it's a matter of, again, trying to assess, does the student have something going on in that immediate time frame? Did they not do well in the test? Did they get their phone taken by their parents? Did they miss out on an activity or something of that nature that may be impacting those scores? Because again, you're looking over a 2-week time frame. The bottom form, and again, you can find these separately, and they come with the scoring sheets online. So again, you don't have to memorize any of this information. The Generalized Anxiety Disorder 7 or GAD-7 form, again, 7 questions, asking them in the very same fashion. And again, the scores here. We tend to, in our chapter, again, look at the moderate to severe categories, and be sure that we provide resources in that sense. The bottom question on each of them is, it just says, if checked off any of the problems, have these problems made it difficult for you to work, take care of things at home, or get along with other people? And the areas of very difficult and extremely difficult would be areas of concern on these screening forms. So again, if you go on Google and you just type in PHQ-9 PDF, you can download the form with no problem. It'll again have the scoring sheets attached to it. So for our directors, what do we do with this information? So one, you want to share the information with parents. If you have someone who has a mild, a moderate to severe or severe form of anxiety or depression based on the screening, you want to let their parents know. I know for me, I've called parents and said, hey, we did this screening in the last Kappa League meeting, and your son scored in this range. Have they had any issues with anxiety or depression in the past? If not, do you sense that something may be going on, or that they're not quite themselves? If they have, are they getting, if they've had issues in the past, are they getting services? Are they getting services through their physician's office? Are they getting services through a therapist? Are they getting services through a psychiatrist? And just as important, is there a family history of mental health disorder? A lot of times, what you'll find is that somebody in the family and the parents are like, yeah, I have anxiety, or my mother has anxiety, and it's something that's a generational thing. And especially in our teenagers, these problems become more evident in our teenage years. When they're really little, it manifests itself as behavior. It always manifests itself as kind of bad or unwanted behavior. But as our kids mature, the disease process matures and presents itself in a much more mature fashion. So if you can simply relate to the parents, hey, here's what we've done, this is what the concern is, I recommend you to share this with your pediatrician or physician, and then let that process go forth, on the medical side. Again, you're not being asked to solve, diagnose, or treat. You're simply taking the information from the screening and passing that onto the family. So our goal with this is to identify possible issues before they become big issues. And just some take-home points from this. We are our brother's keeper. So for my Kappa Leaguers here, you have a great opportunity to be an asset to your brothers, whether they be in Kappa League, whether they be in your friends or your family members. Understand what mental health is. Mental health is essential for each and every one of us in order for us to thrive and grow and blossom. Understand that different mental health conditions and what factors impact your mental health. And then use your 5 senses to recognize those who may be suffering, and where you can have an impact directly. For our directors with the screening, identify the problems, enlighten the parents, and have the parents seek out the resources. The last thing I will say is that we tend to find this information very helpful in in Kappa League, because now I know a student is having an issue. I know who to watch more closely. I know who to put my arm around. Our kids come into our Kappa League meeting. They're not allowed to avoid the advisors. They can't just come in and sit down. They have to make sure they address each advisor when they come in. There's some dap or a pound or a hug every time they come in. So I can get to read their body language each time they come into the room. So I may find the kids more tired and just go sit next to them and check in on them. So just knowing there's an issue gives you a greater opportunity to have some impact. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, or I'll turn it over to Brother Keys.
So we're gonna have Brother Hasib do the Q&A. So if you have a question, either you can put, and we do have one question already in the chat. But if not, if you want to speak it, also be able to use your reaction button and raise your hand. And Brother Hasib will take it from here in regards to the Q&A. Keep in mind, we do have a limit on our time for Q&A, but if you have other questions, please put them in the chat, and Brother Booker will answer them in the chat. So we're going to take about 10 minutes for any questions that are needed that you may have for Brother Booker's presentation. So again, I'm going to toss it over to Brother Hasib. Use your reaction button to raise your hand, or use the chat to ask the question. Brother Hasib, it's on you. You're on mute, brother.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Brother Keys. I do see a question in the chat, and we'll get to the raised hands. So let's me for it. I saw it was I think Moses said, "Do we have a policy for consent prior to doing a mental health screening?"
So what we do in our chapters, all the parents are just made aware of it. And so if a parent would like not to have the screening done, they simply just let us know that, but there's not a directive otherwise. We let them know it's something we mentioned before Kappa League year starts. We give them a heads up once we're going to actually do the screening. And literally, brother, it takes what happens is the kids come into the room. We have a student who's handing out the surveys. And he says, look, complete these surveys. There's pens on the table. When you finish them, bring them over here and put them on the table in this pile. That's it. It does not take you a tremendous amount of time. You don't have to score them at that meeting. We score them once the meeting is over. And then as a committee, we can sit and say, hey, these following kids came up as flags for this. And then for me as the guy director, I call the parents and say, hey, are you aware of these issues, or are there any issues that we should be concerned about?
Thank you, Brother Booker. And I would say, guide directors, if you locally, like any other thing, and it may be something we look at, but again, Brother Booker said, we're not diagnosing, we're trying to assist. But if you feel that is something you should do, kind of just like when we have field trips or other outings and we have to get video waivers, I would encourage you to do that if you wish to do that. But I do understand the question. So, but again, we're not, as Brother Booker said, we're not diagnosing. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to get a feel for what's going on. So, all right. I see Brother Scott Johnson, hands up.
Yes, good afternoon, brothers. Good morning to others. I just wanted to ask the question of Brother Booker. As we go further down the road with this, are we looking at compiling a reference guide where brothers can refer their kids to the specific resources, or are we going to constantly keep this to giving that to the parents and making that the parents' responsibility?
So your resources, I know for me as a pediatrician, your resources really vary from location to location. The biggest challenge you have with mental health is that it's not covered like physical health from an insurance standpoint. So while you may have some providers on we can always put together a list of resources that are local to each community, but that would be relative to each guide director or each locale. But a lot of mental health professionals don't take insurance. So you're now in this double-edged sword of identifying a kid who has a problem, or even for us as adults having a problem, but not having someone who can adequately manage it, given that it could be $300, $400, $500 for a mental health visit, to the psychiatrist. And then you require constant follow-up. So it's not a one-sided problem like an ear infection or a strep throat, where, hey, I'm going to see you and I'm going to treat this and it's going to go away. This is going to be an ongoing process. So I think it's by locale, it's what the resources are going to be very, very different, but it's something we can look into.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Booker. See here. Any other question? Anyone other questions? I don't see any hands. Oops.
Thank you, good brothers. Thank you, Brother C and Brother Keys, for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, brother. All right.
All right, perfect. Again, if you have a question, sometimes you just have a question that comes up a little bit later, feel free to put it in chat. Or if it's a question that you don't want everybody to see, there's also the direct message that you can send to Brother Booker as well, and he'll be sure to answer that question for you. Because again, we want to make sure we get all your questions answered, because you have a lot of good resources here that can answer your questions. So don't let you asking the question hinder you, because there's other options out there. Again, you can put in the chat so everybody can hear it, or you can direct message Brother Booker as well. So as we get ready to move forward, we're now going to move forward with Daryl Campbell, who is going to introduce himself, but then also talk about why mental health is important. So, Brother Campbell, it is on you, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me here. Good morning, brothers. Good afternoon, brothers. So let me just go ahead and give you my background. So I am a licensed clinical social worker, also a certified addiction therapist down in the state of Florida. I'm also a Florida state representative as well. And so talking about mental health has been something that I've been passionate about and have been on the forefront. And so being here to talk about why is it important is definitely something I truly enjoy. So when we talk about mental health, we understand and the way that we need to look at mental health is that each and every one of us, when we're looking at mental health, have some type of mental health issue at some point in time in our lives. And so mental health is a normal everyday thing that we all do. One day you'll wake up happy, one day you'll wake up sad, one day you'll wake up frustrated, one day you just wake up with no care in the world. And so it's these variants of how these emotions play and plays in waves within our lives. And so from that standpoint, we must understand that mental health is truly important and really a something that we need to make sure that we are taking care of each and every day, because what can happen from mental health is that mental illness comes about if we do not take care of this. It's more of a recognition of, look, I feel this way. This is how it's affecting me. And how do I now operate knowing that I am dealing with, for example, a grief or a loss? How do I move day in and day out? It's a behavioral recognition, as I try to simply put it. So when we talk about how has mental health played a part in everyday life, so let's go back before the pandemic. Mental health has been engulfed. We talk about the effects of it on the Black community. It's been very documented. If you look at some of the research that's out there, a lot of it stems from post trauma, from when we go think about slavery time and all that. We're still dealing with things that we have not, or we've learned throughout the years of how to deal with certain situations and certain stress levels and certain things. So so what we are realizing in this space is that when we come to Black folks and asking them questions, some of us look at it as, okay, that we shrug it off because that's something that we've been inherently trained to deal with, and we don't see it as a problem. And so trying to break the stigma within Black folks that this is the issue and that facing it or figuring out a way to deal with it is part of why we are constantly talking about the importance of mental health and how do we move forward. We know that if it's not taken care of, if we do not face it, the situation tends to become worse, and the actions that is perceived or seen within that individual tends to be in increased, where you'll see like You'll see anger. You'll see just erratic behavior, decisions being made without even processing it and thinking it. So when we talking about mental health, the reason why we want to make sure that we're making sure it's a focal point is we want to make sure that folks are recognizing it, taking the time to stop back and process what they can do, or be mindful of how do they interact with other individuals, and how do they interact with themselves, and giving them that type of grace. So this is so important when we talk about that. As we move forward and we look at the inherent effects of it, we've seen a big increase within our youth and our adults as well. The post-pandemic, or after the high point of the pandemic, we've seen the disparities of this really come out. And you can point to a variety of issues. You can point to social media. You can point to the exposure that we are constantly endured through ads, through TV, through whatever we experience within our families, and all that, and how we've been taught and trained to handle those situations. And so talking about it, recognizing it, has been the key points in how we move forward and understanding what we're dealing with. And so the pandemic has just only increased that and heightened it, and we're seeing the disparities really come forth. And so why this is important, we need to be able to share our feelings, disclose our feelings, how it will resonate, because our youth, our kids are watching us as Black men, as we have to recognize that if we do not address this, we inherently pass it on to our generation that's coming behind us. And so being accountable, recognizing how this impacts us, how it impacts our family, and having a discussion around it, and showing that it is okay to feel pain, it's okay to hurt, it's okay to cry, laugh, but it is not okay to not talk about it. And so that's why this is important. We want to have more of a conversation around what mental health is and how to recognize those signs and those symptoms. And with that, I'm going to allow for any questions as we move forward.
Thank you, Brother Campbell. Does anyone have any questions? Brother Campbell? And it could be young men, brothers, parents.
Brother Campbell, awesome. Just a question: what tips would you offer to our students in terms of ways to kind of manage or improve their mental health? Like, what coping mechanisms or things that you find that are useful with the patients you speak with?
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Brooker, for that question. So the way that I break it down for kids is I try to tap into their inner child. Everybody has an inner child where we are looking at how what are the things in my life that make me happy? Do I go to work out? Do I like to hang out with friends? Do I read? What are the things that make you happy, and how often are you doing it, and how much are you enjoying it? On top of that, what are the pillars of safety you're creating around you? As we know, as humans, we are social creatures. So somebody completely isolating themselves is not a good thing. We need that emotional interaction. We need to have a conversation and talk with somebody. So I try to find what are their joys. And then if I find that they're struggling to find those joys, I participate in a little interactive game where I ask them, okay, what is their favorite show, TV show that they like to do? You know, when you watch your TV show, is there a ritual that you have with your TV show? Say you have to watch it at this time on a Saturday morning with a bowl of cereal. All right. So you think back to your childhood, think back to how we as kids sat on a Saturday morning to watch Batman Beyond or WB or whatever channels came about, eating a bowl of cereal and enjoying with the blinds closed. And you just kind of tap into those those happy moments and seeing what they like to enjoy and how are they doing it and why they're not doing it. And then also trying to be proactive into how do you get back into that space? What can you do each week to ensure that you are holding yourself accountable to do those things that you enjoy?
Thanks, Brother Campbell. You made me snicker to myself because you referenced WB and Batman Beyond, and I'm thinking about Sesame Street and Electric Company. So I got you by about 20 or 30 years. I did want to say,
Brother Campbell,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Doug, can I just offer one thought? One thing that I always work with patients on is having emotional honesty. And it's really just the point of being able of learning how to be able to describe how you feel. So I'll give you an example. Oftentimes, you're just busy and you go, I'm tired. And you're not actually tired, because when your mouth says you're tired, your body takes on what your mouth gives it. But sometimes it may be that, hey, my body's tired, or my schedule's too busy and I need a break, or I'm hungry, or I'd like more free time. So, trying to assess how you're feeling and how you're doing in more than one word is often helpful, because it'll give you the ability to kind of address it better. You might say I'm stressed, but you might use tired as the mechanism. Well, when you're tired, you want to sleep or you want to rest. And so just being able to have a clear way to kind of define. And look, for all of us, emotion is something hard to define, sometimes hard to put words to. So you may not have the correct words, but if you're constantly trying to properly identify how you're really feeling, I'm angry, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I'm hungry. Sometimes hunger is a big one. You just don't eat enough. It does affect kind of how your mental aptitude as well. So just being able to try to identify and honestly put words to what you're actually feeling sometimes is really helpful.
So, Brother Booker, Brother Campbell, it sounds like it sounds like you guys are referencing that communication is key.
Absolutely. It is definitely key. And then for those that even struggle with even finding the words, there are and we can provide that, but there are emotional or emotion spaces to describe moods. And you can, if you print it out, you can see the face and they can point to the face and really highlight what mood they're feeling with the word right underneath that. And that can help to bring out that conversation and bring out the words that they struggle to find too.
We have a question from Chris. Says, are there any indicators that excessive video gaming can lead to mental health ebbs and flows? Brother Ramson.
So thank you for that question. And so it's a tricky situation because, I've used when I see kids struggling to have that communication, I understand that part of there are levels of aspects of communication through video gaming that that these kids have been able to find. There's like a video game community network. Now, if they're just sitting there just playing the game by themselves, yes, that's an issue. But also, if they're communicating with people via the internet, and they're talking with them and they're having these elaborate conversations, I monitor it, but I have no issue with it because they are having constant communication with somebody. Now, the problem that comes in is that a lot of times these are people that they don't see in person, or they don't really don't know, because sometimes they're in a different state or something like that. With the advent of FaceTime and a lot of these, and Twitch, they're able to have these conversations back and forth via FaceTime, engaging. But so anything that's any let's put this into context. If you drink too much water, water can be not good for you, because it can mess up your liver, kidney. But too much of anything is not good. So if they're constantly sitting there playing video games, they need to at least take some time break to come back into the real world and really address having some type of social communication outside of just playing games. So it can be an aspect in a way where kids begin to have that communication and create that social communication, but they need to take some time away from it to really develop those social skills outside of playing video games, because they're not going to be playing video games straight on throughout their life. That's not going to be the end all be all type of communication that they have.
Thank you, Brother Campbell. Let's see, any more questions? Okay. And I did say, just for everyone who wondered about those forms, without going into too much depth, I have a sibling that has had mental health issues since she was in her teens, and I texted her since I was on here. I said, "Have you had these two forms?" And she said, "Yeah, actually, that's the forms that my therapist lets me fill out twice a quarter before I have my sessions." So we are not just reaching and grabbing and trying to. This is valid information that everyone could use. So I appreciate Brother Campbell on that. All right, Brother Keys.
All right. So we're gonna do something interactive, because I know it's kind of spurred a moment, so we didn't on the agenda. But we talked about communication. That was a whole big thing we talked about, communication. So if you can use your chat, again, use your chat and tell us, what do you do to support your emotional well-being? Or what do you do to support your mental health? So again, put in the chat. Let's have some interaction as we go into the next presentation. But again, what do you do to support your mental health or emotional well-being? What do you do? And we'll call out a few of them in shortly as we go into the next thing. But it's always good to learn from each other, because there may be some stuff out there that you may not see, that you may not learn, So let's go ahead and have that conversation in the chat. And then we may come back to some of y'all to actually say it out loud too before we close out. All right.
See, meditation, work out, partake in things I enjoy, play sports, sleep, watch TV, call friends, work out again. I do that as well. Did that this morning. Motivational YouTube videos, sleep. Thank you, Brother Campbell. He has to go. He has to go to another event. Play basketball, talk with friends. Okay. Running, play basketball. A lot of these things involve others. Community is really huge. Brother Campbell talked about, the online forums. I know as a professional, the things that I'm involved with that have communities with them are very beneficial. Whether it's taking a class, whatever it is. So if your current Kappa leaguers, I encourage them to look at each other as a community, because community actually can really help. Let's see, playing basketball, running. It's got some good things in the chat, Brother Keys. Most
definitely.
Physical activities.
Most definitely. Does anybody want to just quickly share about what these things have done for them? Like when they go running, play basketball, like what have they actually done for you in your mental health? Does anybody want to share?
Don't be shy. Somebody's there you go. Oh. Thought I had somebody.
Well, I know for me, and I think the reason the running sticks out, I'm an avid runner. I went from sprints to distance, doing 5Ks older, and now I'm back into sprints again. But it just kind of just relieves a lot of stress when I'm running, and it kind of just allows me just to clear my mind. I do recall one time, I've never been like a long distance runner, um, like no more than 3 miles at a time. But I was so upset at work and just so frustrated at work that I literally ran about 8 miles nonstop until I got calmed down. And if anybody's a runner, running that type of distance nonstop is, yeah, you got to train for that one. And I was just so amped up and just so upset about everything. I just had to get that out of my system. And the only way I could do it was by running as well. And so now transitioning over, just another thing to look at, when Ahmaud Berry was shot because he was running, that also kind of affected my mental health as well, because that was something that was taken away from me based on somebody else's interaction. So I had to find a different method of learning how to run in a more safer group to not take that away from me as well. So just keep all that stuff in mind too. So anybody else would like to share why they like doing what they do? And again, thank you all for the conversation in the chat as well.
I know for me, my biggest stress reliever is golf. It's an opportunity where golf is hard. So for anybody who plays it, you understand it. The game is hard enough that you can't think of something else while you're doing it. And so it's a 4 or 5 hour window where I'm not doing something else. I'm not trying to plan something. I'm not trying to solve another problem. I have one problem, that's trying to find out, one, where that ball went after I hit it, and two, can I get it to the hole in 4 to 5 strokes or 6 strokes or less. And I find, so for me in the winter, what I mentioned before, seasonal affective disorder or depressive disorder, I don't golf in the winter. I live in the north, I live in New Jersey. Right now we got snow on the ground, so you cannot hit a golf ball outside. But I'll go to Top Golf or find an indoor golfing location just to kind of maintain a rhythm. But it's a matter of just trying to find those things that, take time out. It's kind of, self-help, self-health. Take those things out that you really enjoy doing, and make sure you get them in. Block that time out so that it doesn't get used up in some other space.
Exactly. And I think sometimes I had to learn how to actually put on my schedule, because sometimes if you don't put on your schedule, it kind of just, especially when you're ripping and running, even as students, because I have a 12-year-old son and his schedule is packed. So I'm not just saying this for the adults, but just even for the students out there, you got to put on your schedule if you can. All right. So we'll get more conversation going, but let's talk about the plan for the year and what we are looking at proposing and doing for this new initiative called Becoming a Better Brother. So first off, we want to create virtual workshops to create awareness, destigmatize mental health illness, increase access to care by providing resources, and improve wellness among our Kappa League youth, guide right advisors, and the parents as well. We're trying to do a holistic approach to this, and so we're including everybody in these conversations. I think a brother mentioned earlier about some resources, and so we want to create a resource library. The resource library is a collection of videos, texts, images, websites, and instructional modules that will cover a wide range of mental health topics. Each resource is digitized, indexed, and added to our designated database. We're also looking to collaborate with the National Council for Mental Well-Being on the Mental Health First Aid Program. This program will help individuals associated with Guy Wright Kappa League assist someone experiencing a mental health or substance use related crisis. In the Mental Health First Aid course, individuals learn risk factors and warning signs for mental health and additional concerns, strategies for how to help someone in both crisis and non-crisis situations, and where to turn. And so with this, you'll receive a certificate. Again, this certificate is saying that you are made aware. You will not step into the role of Brother Booker. You will not step in the role of Brother Campbell. This is just saying that I am aware of certain signs and I just know how to make those resources. So again, the certificate is not saying that you can go out now and become a mental health specialist or a physician or any sort, but it does help us in recognizing some things. And so there'll be an adult to adult, because we also have advisors who need help as well. As an advisor, we carry on a lot of things with our students. And so let's say myself and Brother Booker are in the same chapter, it's always good for me to do a check-in with Brother Booker as a guide right advisor, just to see how he's doing. Because not only do we have guide right stuff, but we also have family life, work life, all that stuff as well. And so this training will allow us to also look from advisor to advisor, our adult to adult, our parent to parent, in this training. We also have something that we'll be doing, and they call it adult to youth, but it's obviously advisor to our guide right students, trying to pick up some of those signs in our youth as well. Also, will also be a training on youth to youth. Like, what does it look like to become a better brother amongst U.S. teens and amongst U.S. guide right directors? I mean, guide right students in this as well. Because sometimes you all notice things before we even notice it. There's a different language that people can use, because what one word meant to me back in the day may not mean the same to you all. But if you hear that word, it kind of triggers something in you all to say, oh, something may not be right. Okay, so again, this program will provide participants with a certification. There is a training, and the training will vary based on which module that you use. Either it's the adult to adult, adult to youth, or youth to youth. And it all depends on which one you do. All right. Also, too, again, going back to the brother's question, we also want to identify mental health specialists who are members of Kappa Alpha Psi. We would advertise their services to members for additional resources and support. I think Brother Booker mentioned this in his response as well. Every region has something different. And so we want to make sure that we're able to give you those resources, because what Brother Booker may have in New Jersey may not be what I have here in the state of Florida. And so, again, we want to be able to identify those resources to assist everybody in the country of what mental health resources they have. But first off, we also want to recognize and identify members of our fraternity who are mental health specialists as well. All right. Finally, we're looking to create a marketing campaign featuring guide right students, advisors, and mentors sharing their experiences with mental health. And so there's one thing we want to make sure that we're out there. We want to make sure that we're promoting this as well, and showing that young Black men, or Black men as a whole, can have these conversations and have these safe conversations, and also be able to identify mental health issues as well. I think we said again, I just want to reiterate again, we're not trying to make you into the next Booker. We're not trying to make you into the next Campbell. What we are trying to do is make us better brothers to identify and assist in getting resources to individuals like Brother Booker, getting those individuals to Brother Campbell. And that's what we're trying to do here. Okay. Now, we're always looking for individuals to assist us, whether you want to be, if you're a member of Kappa Alpha Psi and would like to be a member of this committee. We have a great committee. Brother Hasib, Brother Booker, and Brother Campbell and myself are part of the committee. But if you want to become part of the committee, please email us here at communityefx@gmail.com. In addition, if you want to be part of our marketing campaign and you want to share your story centered around mental health and how you are dealing with it, or how you overcame it, or how you even are managing it, please email us here as well. Keep in mind, we will be rolling this out throughout 2024 and part of 2025 as well. So be on the lookout. Also, it's your job as a messenger to get more people to attend these events, because we will be doing this throughout the year. And it will be designated to a certain audience as well. So before we get ready to close out, any final words from Brother Booker, Brother Hasib? Any final words or any other questions that you may have in regards to what we're trying to accomplish this year?
Just want to thank everybody for coming, and just encourage our young men that were on attendance, the parents, and the brothers to take this seriously. I mean, and we as a community, we can assist each other, because mental health is serious matters. I said I have personal family members that deal with it, and just remember, communication. It's difficult for adults, young grown men, to communicate. And we know what the times are different. So we just really encourage, our young men to lean on each other and be a better brother to one another. So I appreciate Brother Keys and Brother Booker and Brother Campbell for putting all this together.
All right. Brother Booker, any last words from you?
Again, your mental health is really important. It's a topic that we as men have not, properly addressed in the past. The idea that you've got to kind of man up in some situations, we're all capable of doing that, but other situations, understand it's okay to ask for help.
Most definitely, most definitely. And again, we can't do this by ourselves. So if you can in the chat, if you're ready to become a better brother, put "we ready" in the chat, because again, we're not doing this by ourselves. As a community, I think Brother Hasib said earlier, it's a community that we're trying to build here to make sure that everybody's good. So if you can, just put "we ready" in the chat. Just have a little fun. Good. David S was the first one. Alexander, let's go. All right, Joshua, we ready? All right. So we ready. Somebody said be ready. All right, let's go. Perfect, perfect. Again, we're trying to build a community. And I think we said it earlier. We're here to support each other in any way, shape, or form. And I think the one thing that we kind of might have missed out on, the beautiful thing that we're building here is if you're not comfortable with a mental health specialist, always find another one. Don't give up on your mental health. I think a lot of times we may have situations where we have a bad experience with one mental health specialist and we're not going to anybody else. We're building a resource where you, your families, everybody can find another resource as well. So we don't want you just to stop. Because if there's an issue going on, we want to make sure that you get well. And if you can't get well, at least learn how to manage it in a better way. Okay. So again, I'm excited to see that we got so many people ready. If you want to become a part of this, either as a brother or as anybody or in our marketing campaign, please email us again at community, E as in elephant, F as in Frank, X as in X-ray @gmail.com. And we'll be reaching out to you soon. All right. So with that being said, we wanted to keep it very short because this was just an introduction into this mental health initiative. And I think Brother Hassim said earlier, please keep our National Guide Right Director in your prayers as he is saying, as he is celebrating his mother who passed away earlier this year. All right. Also, too, I think we have the Eastern Province was looking to plan a mental health expo on September 7th. And so we definitely are looking to see how we can incorporate that as well within his National Guide Right. All right. If there's nothing else, I'd love to see the re-readies. I'm excited for you all to become better brothers. So let's make it happen. To our Guide Right directors, to our Guide Right students, to our parents who are on the call, we're doing this as a holistic thing, and we look forward to being a part of your journey through life. And so again, thank you all for taking the time out today, and we look forward to seeing you all in the future. All right. So if nothing else, that is it. You may log off, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Hey, appreciate you. Have a good one.
All right, Brother Booker, good job, man. I mean, Brother Keys. Brother Keys.
It's all good. It's all
right.
good.
All right. All right, Newt. Have a good one, man.
All right, y'all have a good one. Thank you, everybody.